Fine Music Breakfast with Annabelle Drum.
And I hope you're enjoying the music here at Fine Music Breakfast on Fine Music 102.5. And we'll have a quick look at the weather. First of all, it's 13 degrees in Sydney and in Penrith as well, looking for a high of 19 degrees in Sydney and 18 in Penrith. Cloudy outside, as you can see, patchy fog out in the west and a very high chance of showers today. Very similar weather tomorrow as well. Now, in the studio, I have with me this morning an Australian composer, singer and musician who has toured with the ARIA award-winning Monsieur Camembert, the Australian Brandenburg Orchestra and also Latin Grammy-nominated duo Ramirez Satorre. She studied and performed in Canada and Argentina and more recently been featured on the 20th anniversary album of our own resident artist, the Marais Project. So I'd like to welcome Emily Rose Sharkova.
Good morning, Annabelle.
Good morning, Emily Rose. Thank you so much for coming along.
Oh, thanks for having me in the studio.
Now, you started out studying piano in Sydney Conservatorium, is that right?
Yes. Well, I mean, one could say that I started out studying piano on my mum's lap at age 2, but I did do all the official stuff at university, at the Conservatorium in Sydney.
And then you sort of headed off all around the world to pick up on other genres. Tell me how that came about.
Yes. Well,
it's very brave.
Oh, well, thank you. So I went to study classical piano at the Conservatorium. Actually, I started in composition and then switched over. And in my second year, I'm not going to say I got bored, but I get a bit restless with just doing one style, let's say. And I thought it'd be great to play an instrument that, not many other people play, and I decided on accordion. And there was one other person that I knew, you've probably heard him, Marcello Mayo, who's a great accordion player in Sydney, and he comes from a accordion playing family. And I asked him, I went, what do I do? How do I do this accordion thing? And I had a couple of lessons with his father, Ross Mayo, got an accordion sent over from Italy, and then I joined a klezmer band, and that was it. That was my introduction into like the folk world, and I went to folk festivals. Went to the National Folk Festival in Canberra, and I remember sort of entering this magical world and going, these are my people. Where has all this been? Like I've been sitting in a room by myself playing Bach, which I love. But
so the Sydney Conservatorium sort of faded into the distance at that moment.
It was sort of like, there's all this stuff in this outside world. And so I started, exploring different kinds of music, listening to a lot of different music from different cultures, and the folk festivals are really a place to, meet people playing music from all over the world.
So where were the best folk festivals?
Well, we've got a lot in Australia, actually. They're kind of really important for the social fabric, especially of small towns. So there's some really beautiful small folk festivals, places like Kangaroo Valley, Cobargo was one we recently did in February. Oh, there's so many. Majors Creek Folk Festival, Cygnet down in Tasmania, Palm Creek up in far north Queensland. There's actually one you could probably find on most weekends somewhere in Australia. There's a folk festival.
Wow.
And of course the biggest one in Queensland, Woodford, over the New Year's Woodford Folk Festival.
Is there any one website that lists all those wonderful festivals?
That's a really good question.
You don't know
Maybe we
one?
should find out.
I think we should.
Yeah.
We'll pop it up on Facebook or something.
Definitely.
That's great. So were those the main ones that you were travelling around to pick up on the community and learn the different styles of music, or were you going overseas as well?
Well, I went to the National Folk Festival. That was my first introduction, and that's in Canberra every year over Easter. And that's quite a large one. And I'd say that I picked up on a lot of different inflections and styles and things like that being at the folk festivals. And then I decided to go overseas to Argentina to study tango music in particular, because that was a style that I was very interested in, being a tango dancer as well.
Perfect for accordion and bandoneon.
Well, originally I thought, isn't that an accordion that I'm hearing? But of course then I learnt later on that it was not, and it was a bandoneon. And then
Which are smaller, aren't they?
Yeah, they're smaller. They're like a little box. They've got buttons and they're freakishly tuned in a completely nonsensical manner. There's no pattern. Don't try to find one.
Wow. So quite different to learn then?
Really different. And so I sort of went on a little journey to learn that for quite a long time.
You'd be very valued here in Sydney, though, to be able to know that, because there aren't a lot of bandoneon players in Sydney, I don't think.
There aren't that many. There's a couple of fairly good players. And then there's a couple down in Melbourne.
Though the tango scene of dancers is growing and growing. So
Definitely.
surely they'd want more live musicians if they can.
Yes. Well, I'm actually heading down to Melbourne next weekend and playing with the Melbourne Tango Orchestra. So there's quite a buzzing scene down there where the tango music is happening. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. And through the folk music, you found your way to Chaika Band, didn't you? Who we've featured here a few months ago, actually.
Well, the very original group that Chaika grew out of was that band that I mentioned, that I joined this klezmer band when I was at the conservatorium. I had a friend called Sarah. I think her father, Jerry Myson, used to do a show, actually.
Oh, yes.
He's still
here.
does. He does. Yeah, he's still here.
That's right.
Anyway, she found out that I'd started learning accordion and was like, oh, well, come and play in my band. We play klezmer music. I said, what kind of music? What's that? And so I started, this little journey of like Jewish folk music and klezmer music and Yiddish music, which then took me into the folk festivals. That band eventually grew into what we now have, Chaika.
Which is a very eclectic mix of musicians.
Very eclectic, yes. So, we had originally, I think there was a bass clarinet and a clarinet and accordion and violin. And gradually people moved and, in and out of the band. And we were left with these 4 girls. The main sort of staple was myself, Susie Bishop, Laura Bishop, her sister, and Laura Altman, who actually learnt piano with my mum when she was 4. So I've known her for quite a long time.
Yes, indeed.
And then Susie's partner, Johan Delin, came from Sweden to live here, and he was a bass player. And so immediately he was in every single project because we needed a bass player.
Recruited.
And then Rendra Freestone, who we met through folk festival circuits, and also the Rhythm Hunters, which is a great Indo-Pacific groove band. He joined as well and started guesting with us, and then became, part of the group. And we basically stopped thinking that, we need to play, traditional musics. And we thought, well, what influences us? We actually have all very different backgrounds, very different influences. Laura Bishop has had a lot of experience with Bulgarian singing in women's choirs.
Is it Martinitsa?
Yes, she sings with the Martinitsa and composes for them, and Mara, and also with the London Bulgarian Choir when she was living in England. Susie Bishop, she studied opera in England, and both sisters grew up in the folk scene, playing a lot of traditional folk music and contra dance with their parents. And then Rendra has a lot of, African, Indonesian, Japanese, taiko, percussion influences and
goodness.
reggae and roots and stuff like that.
Such a rich knowledge base to work from, isn't
so
it?
many things. And then myself, I'm quite influenced by jazz in terms of what I compose for Chaika.
I've seen some of your videos of jazz as well. Yeah,
well,
lovely laid-back stuff.
Thanks. I was playing all the classical stuff, but I was always trying to get into the jazz courses at the car, and I was like, oh, could I just do this as an extra subject, please? And then, of course, Laura Altman, she's a big voice in the improvised music scene, in the free improv scene. So, we've just got these, influences that we really embrace now. And our latest sort of work that we've been doing is a lot of original things that are influenced by all different kinds of musics. We don't stick to one thing.
Well, the album that you've brought out is really extraordinary.
Thanks.
Yeah, just unique. I don't know how you place it, and if you wanted to put it on iTunes, do you have a place that you would put it on there? I don't know, alternative or
yeah. Well, it's quite
they have
alternative,
a folk
isn't
section?
it? I wish they had like not in a box. And you could tick that.
That's the genre, not in a box.
Not in a box.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, look, I had some great things coming from the audience the other night. I think one of them, which was very good, was just, he said, it was like I was sitting in a bubble of happiness and bizarreness.
Oh, bubble of happiness and bizarreness. Oh. You could quote that on your website.
Yes.
That's quite a unique quote.
It's very unique.
Well, let's have a listen to a little piece from this album. This is one of my favourite ones. I actually was playing it because we had you a CD of the week a little while ago as well, and so I liked listening to this one. So this one is called Arrow. This is the title track for this CD. And that was Arrow, which is from Chaika Band's album of the same name. And I'm sitting with Emily Rose Shakova, one of the members of Chaika Band at the moment. And that is just such an amazing track. You know, when I play it in the car, I always find I'm singing along.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, it's definitely our audience sing-along song.
It is. It's easy to sing along to. And yet the rhythm underneath is so sophisticated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite complex. We love interesting time signatures and rhythms inside Chaika, and we spend a long time all sitting together working out different grooves.
And so the whole album has like a mix. So this is pulling in all the knowledge, right, from all your musicians, all the different ethnic groups.
And also every musician in the band this time around has had a chance to have their own compositional voice. And so there's a piece on the album for everybody, whether it's, you know, somebody's composed something and we've all come in and all arranged it together, or perhaps someone's brought a traditional song that they've arranged, you know, and then we mix it up. Yeah.
And it makes a difference, you know, so that when you go out to your audience, it's not like you're just a covers band.
Definitely not.
You know,
Yeah.
you definitely, you've brought something completely unique. And how has it been received in the folk festivals when you play this kind of music?
People love it at folk festivals. I suppose we fit there really well.
Yeah.
And
You've got a new video coming out too,
we
haven't you?
do. Well, the Cobargo Folk Festival, which we did a few months back, these guys have been making these wonderful videos of all the different artists. I think they're calling it the Cobargo Sessions. And we've got a video coming out on the 10th of July, actually, which features us in a riverbed in the dusk of the Cobargo Folk Festival, and we're playing a beautiful Swedish song, which is on the album, and it features Susie's gorgeous vocals.
Sounds very cinematic.
It is. It's really gorgeous. Yeah, it makes us look like this cool indie folk band. You know,
We always like to look cool, though, right? That's wonderful. So these folk festivals that are dotted all around Australia, and now there's one that's coming up in Sydney, isn't there?
There is. There's an inaugural folk festival, Sydney Folk Festival, which we're super excited about. It's being run by the New South Wales Folk Federation, and there's a team of extremely, extremely dedicated folkies pulling it all together. It's going to be right in the centre of Sydney, centred around Pitt Street and George Street, I believe. Folk festivals have tended to be sort of a lot of the time in smaller, you know, towns and areas. People like to go out, you know, they like to camp and be rural.
It's fun to visit the town, right? So it's good for the economy of the town as well.
Absolutely. You know, it's always such a big event. But yeah, the New South Wales Folk Fed, they really wanted to bring the folk festival to Sydney, you know, to the city folk who wouldn't normally go. People who would never normally go and never normally sort of expose themselves to this kind of music. And so they've drawn some of the really, really, you know, great sort of older names in the folk scene, as well as the new generation of folk. And that's kind of their tagline, is the new generation of folk. So they've got a lot of young sort of upcoming bands and people who really, really, really care about making great music. And Chaika's super lucky to be on that lineup. We're really happy to have been asked to play.
I feel really well deserved. So that's in August.
Yes.
So we'll try and share some more information on that. And in the meantime, well, I guess that on the Chaika Band website there'll be more information about when you guys are playing in the festival, when that comes up in August. So that website is Chaika Band, CHAIKA band.com is the website. And your own website as well is something that is really worth, I think, people looking at. They can see all the neat things that you've been up to as well. So that's music by Emily Rose It
is indeed.
Lovely. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks so much
and
for having me, Annabelle.
sharing this information. This is great. Okay, thank you.
Bye.